Now I'd like to welcome you at this fourth deal sharing of this spring, the spring of the deal sharing series. We've had 3 before this one on different topics. One also from this studio, one from a studio in Vienna, and one actually hosted from Milan, all by our members. Deal sharings are set up in a way that our members share deals that are up for co-investment or follow-up investment. So to share those deals with you, to endorse those deals, so you have better and more interesting deals at your plate to look at and to take into consideration. We make them thematic. By making these sessions thematic, we tend to have smaller numbers of registrants, not 10, but usually around 20, 25. But definitely always those organizations that are interested to join. My name is Martijn Blom. I run the Impact Funds Initiative within EVPA. EVPA is a network of about 300 members across Europe, all investors for impact. The Impact Funds Initiative targets those that are impact funds or impact fund managers and their particular challenges and opportunities we try to address in this Impact Funds Initiative. Next to this deal sharing spring, for example, we have launched a podcast featuring some of our members. I really recommend the last one of Impact that we launched 2 weeks ago and was launched on LinkedIn actually today. I told to other people, if you're not into impact finance, it's probably one of the most boring podcasts so far, but if you're into impact finance, it's definitely one of the most interesting so far. So definitely have a go and look at them. As usual, today 2 of our members will share a deal. We have Ankie van Wersch here from Enviu, and she will present Discovered. We will hear a bit later what that company entails. We also have online the Cartier Women's Initiative. Jodi, welcome on the call. She will introduce and endorse Ananas Anam, a company also in the fair fashion industry. This whole session will be started by a short keynote hosted by Lisa Jordan from DRK on the fashion industry and why so much impact can be made, particularly in this industry. But before handing over to Lisa, I'd like to thank two organizations first. One of them is the European Commission for helping us making this possible. And secondly, also ImpactCity The Hague for hosting us for the second time in this studio. So Irene, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, a digital welcome to The Hague. You're of course not in The Hague, but very happy to co-host this again with Martijn here in the studio in The Hague at Apollo 14. A lot of you may have already heard about ImpactCity, but to make it really short on what we do. So ImpactCity The Hague is part of the municipality of The Hague, and we are building a European ecosystem with all kinds of organizations that are gathering together to facilitate social entrepreneurs to land here in The Hague and grow and scale their business. And every year we come together at a big event called Impact Fest. Maybe you've already been. If not, feel free to join us on the 15th of November this year, where there will be investors, entrepreneurs, policymakers, knowledge institutes, all kinds of organizations coming together. But for now, very happy to be attending here again, together also with our partner DRK Foundation. So I'm looking forward to hearing all the stories and hopefully welcome you physically in The Hague soon again.
Thank you, Irene. And while I sit back a little bit and while the numbers of participants start to creep up a little bit, I'd like to ask for it also Lisa. Lisa, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Martijn.
Can I hand over to you?
Sure, it's great to be here. My task today is to tell you everything you ever wanted to know about the textile industry in 15 minutes. So there are 2 things that I want to share. The first one is not much has changed in the industry in 200 years. We have a conversation today about fast fashion versus fair fashion, but in fact, the industry remains very, very easy to set up. It gravitates to environments with cheap pools of labor. It's very slow to embrace new technology or changes in the production process. It continues to operate on a growth mentality, so different, faster, more, which leads us to today's fast fashion. It relies on women, a women workforce, sometimes even children. It relies on free water supplies and other natural capital resources, and has for centuries, unfortunately, held the distinctions of really atrocious labor, safety, and environmental practices, really bordering on malevolent. It is a very dirty industry. It's the dirtiest one next to oil and gas. On the upside, and there is an upside, whole regions and countries have grown a middle class on the back of this particular industry. And if you have the stomach for it, it can be highly profitable for investors. There are 5 points for investors to consider, also grant makers to consider, giving the EVPA audience, that I'm going to end this talk with today. So 5 points for investors and grant makers to be thinking about who are engaged in change and want to see fair fashion really make a dent in the textile industry. So the industry, for me, is the textbook of the Industrial Revolution plus globalization on top of it. The good, the bad, and the very, very, very ugly. And we don't have time to really go into all of the industry's history, but we can look at some of the modern day challenges, and believe me, there are plenty of those. And I'm going to look at them from the perspective of what the financial newspapers are reporting. So if you did if you knew you were going to stand on this podium today and you did a small scan of what was happening in the financial papers around the textile industry, you would have seen last Friday that the Zalando, which is the largest online fashion retailer in Europe, lost 17% of its value Friday morning. And the Financial Dagblad, which is our local financial paper, noted that the party is over. And what they mean is that the party for investors is over. Lycra, which makes your and mine a least favorite fabric, that's spandex, ended 2020 with a net loss of 103 million, and it's in foreclosure today, required by a Dutch court. Under the headline on Saturday, under the headline of Fair Textiles, a Bangladesh labor activist called Puna Attar had a 3-page spread in the financial newspaper, which outlined all of the labor atrocities from 1992 to 2013 in the industry, and also outlined her demand for compensation for the 4 million women and men who work in this industry in Bangladesh, and from one day to the next were thrown out of their work places without any kind of compensation or any kind of safety net because of the pandemic. The same demand that she's now putting to those who have factories in Bangladesh was put to Victoria's Secret 2 years ago for 1,250 factory workers, and they received compensation to the tune of 7.7 million euros by Victoria's Secret just last year. So it is not a stretch to note that even in the financial newspapers, the volatility of the industry, the labor conditions, and the environmental costs are reported on almost on a daily basis. So this is the big industry. Fast fashion, where there's a lot of conversation about right now, is exacerbating every single one of these trends: volatility, social unrest, and environmental damage at both ends of the supply chain, from production all the way to the waste stream. And fast fashion means that we have 24 to 36 new lines launched annually, but it also, something that is not well known and not always reported on, it drives reliance on fossil fuel-based synthetic materials that are cheaper, adaptable, and much more widely available. So polyester has grown to become the #1 synthetic fiber in the world, and now it represents more than half of all global fiber production. And as you and I, we probably all know, if we're working in this industry, it is produced from non-renewable resources. It requires a great deal of energy for extraction and processing, and it releases significant byproducts. 40% of the fast fashion production lines are being sold at markdowns. Much of the new lines end up in waste streams, being burnt or used once and then discarded. So this is the context, this is the environment where champions of fair fashion start to walk in. So what are the solutions that the champions of fair fashion are putting forward? The ecosystem is very rich, fortunately, and diverse. But first of all, I just want to say that there's very widespread recognition that this fast fashion process really has to stop. So there's a movement across the globe of investors, labor, and environmental champions working across a policy and market nexus to combat unsustainable and really brutal labor practices that are inherent in the industry. And even the industry players themselves who hold the bulk of financial value, that's the large consumer brands and the retailers, that value is about 586 billion. They know they have a problem. So solutions can be found really right across the chain, from raw materials, production processes, inclusive of supply chain logistics, end use, and the retail experience. I'm going to give you 5 categories where you can find different investment opportunities. And if you're a grant maker, you can also find opportunities to engage in grant making in this field. And both, by the way, are necessary. So it really fits the venture philanthropy approach that EVPA puts forward. So the first category is transparency, traceability, and reporting. And for me, this offers the most systemic wins, if you will, as much of it is wrapped up in governmental action and industry accords. There are both market and policy solutions for investors and grant makers to pursue in this particular category. I'll just give you some examples on the grant making side. Activists who are pursuing extended producer responsibility policies in California, where you have to pay for your disposal costs up front. There are activists in New York who are looking at supply chain mapping carbon emissions and rights violations, this being mandatory by law. Blockchain can also be applied here, which is an investor opportunity. There are virgin plastic taxes in the UK. There are pricing negative externalities, which is what we really need, and other polluter pay principles, PPP principles. It's very hard to get that out of your mouth. And then on the investor side, machine-based learning and blockchain are 2 new tools for traceability. There are 4 or 5 really notable startups here, which you can find at Fashion for Good, for those of you who are involved in Fashion for Good. So the second category is a recycling and reuse category. It's a rich ecosystem for investment. Less than 1% of all clothing right now is recycled into new garments. However, you have to watch whether this is fueling more guilt-free consumption or if it's truly extending the use of existing items. I'll just give you an example that a recent life cycle analysis that I found in the Harvard Business Review from the former COO of Timberland noted that cotton jeans that are upcycled have almost exactly the same carbon footprint of those that are produced new. So you really want to do a life cycle analysis if you're going to get engaged in the recycle and reuse category. The third category is next-gen materials or bio-based materials. It's a huge category focused on removing petrochemicals from the supply chain, from threads that dissolve, resin from plants, leather from flowers, dyes from waste, waterproofing thread and fibers from plant waste, et cetera. The whole category is really rich for investment opportunity right now. And it's a category that could be hugely boosted by true price policies that tax environmental externalities, and it would even the playing field against polyester. So that's a grant opportunity for those of you who are involved in grant making. The fourth category is new business models, resale and rental, for example, swap and share. You want to look at this, and if you're really keen on climate change, you could note that the rental market reduces CO2 emissions by 3%. The resale market is a little less powerful in terms of carbon emissions reductions. However, it is very hip. If you have a 20-year-old, I have 2 of them at home, it's extremely hip to shop this way. So it's really captured the attention of the next generation. And then the last category that I'll give you is better technology. So across processing, retail, and use, technology is really paving the way to change. The biggest category here is around dye processes, no water, no chemicals, reusing wastewater, plant-based. There's a lot there on dyeing processes for an investor to look at. There's inspection processes that can be done with machine learning on the factory floor to reduce waste and also to look at rights violations. There's a set of enhanced shopping experiences for sizing to eliminate back-end inventory and produce less inventory. There's supply chain tracking with satellites and blockchain, et cetera. And there's even cotton crop growth with pesticides and fertilizers being removed and a lot less water. So there's a lot going on in the new technology arena. For those who are going to get engaged or are engaged and are investors like DRK in the fair fashion, there are five points that I just want to offer for your consideration. The first is that as investors, we should be demanding higher quality data from all of the companies that are involved in the industry, but particularly from the fashion brands. So with respect to supply chain visibility, it's possible to trace supply chains. And if a brand tells you that they can't, you need to hear that as they don't actually want to, because it is possible. It's difficult, and I will fully acknowledge that, but it is possible to do it. The second thing to understand about this industry is that it's really slow to change. Patience is needed. Brands are really stuck to their existing business models, and often that's because the margins are so small, especially under the fast fashion acceleration. And that business model is sell more new things. That's the business model. So innovations that require brands to change are going to take a long time, and they're going to be slow to take hold, and they need a lot of capital. So don't starve the businesses because the growth is slow. This is a real opportunity for patient capital to make a very big difference. Supply chain changes and other new raw materials, like the ones that we mentioned around dyeing, they represent tremendous opportunities in the field. Brands are looking for other people to solve their problems in the supply chain and to serve them a solution at a very cheap price. So the key to think about as an investor is that innovators need to get commitments from the brands that go beyond the piloting phase. And then the fourth one that I would put forward to think about is to be wary of innovations that claim to be circular or impact-oriented that actually are just increasing consumption. Enabling resale is nice, but many, especially brands, are using that incentives to drive the customer back to purchase more new things, and that's not really helping us in the fair fashion game. And then the last thing I'll offer to investors is to get industry insiders and former operators from the industry on the board or as advisors. It is a wild ride on the inside, very volatile, very difficult business to be in right now. New innovators need experienced folks from the industry to help young businesses get a foothold, and those people are out there. So if you're investing in an innovative opportunity like Discovered or Ananas Anam, you want to really think about who's governing and whether or not they have the experience on the board that they need in order to be able to challenge the bigger industry. I'm really looking forward to hearing from my colleagues from Cartier and from Enviu, and thank you to EVPA for the opportunity to talk about this really critical issue.
Thank you, Lisa. Great keynote. I want to provide the opportunity to the audience out there if there's any questions. If not, I have some. Is there anyone that has a question in the audience? Please speak up, don't be shy. No? Then I'll go. I'm always wondering, because I hear the big amounts and I hear all the things that can be done, and it's been spelled out rather clear, so there's no excuse anymore for investors to get involved. But the thing is, the amounts compared then to the why can't we speed this up? It's just always my question with these kind of things.
So it is the story of the Industrial Revolution plus globalization. So it's an old industry. It's very cheap to set up. Not, even though the margins are small, the amount of money that has to be invested in the first place is also not particularly large. And the wealth is held by consumer brands and retailers. So it's really held at the end of the production phase, if you will. And a lot of the changes that really would lead to fair fashion, so less labor violations and less environmental atrocities, are in the production process itself. And that production process is specialized. So you have one or two companies in South Asia, which is where most of these companies are, that do one or another thing in the supply chain. And in order to get the whole supply chain to be better, you have to align all of those different types of changes. And that means that you have to have industry accords. It means that you have to have agreements amongst small businesses, which is often very difficult to get. So I think it's the alignment and the linking in the supply chain that makes it so difficult to create the change that we need to see.
I see my colleague Sophie is also in the call. She leads the corporate initiative at EVPA. So maybe I see your hand is up already, but maybe you have a...
Thank you. Thank you very much, Martijn. And great keynote. Thank you very much, Lisa. I'm based in Paris, and say hello to my Cartier based in Paris as well. So hi, Wendy. Yes, Lisa, my question is, so first, I'd like to hear your view on the fact that, unfortunately, I think the trend of the margin of retailers in this industry will probably diminish in an inflation context, right? So maybe have your view on how it can jeopardize the effort and the traction of those pioneers that really build up of this effort to find the structural systemic solutions. And second question is, there are some quite well-organized collective of industrial with 80% of textile brands who join those collective with this purpose of really revisiting the industry practice. And what is missing there? Because it's not yesterday that they build up those collectives. So what is missing? How come that after so many years and relatively big amount of money, they don't crack, they don't go fast enough?
So I'll just share one fact from Bangladesh, which I think tells a critical part of this story. 30% of the parliamentarians sitting in the Bangladesh parliament are textile factory owners. And they don't want to see, and they don't pass regulation that would allow for a better streamlined alignment between the brands who are the buyers and the producers. Those producers, as you know, work in lines like this, and each line works for a different brand. And if you don't have all of the brands, talking about safety accords, for example, which is one of the more successful aspects of protecting labor rights in Bangladesh, if you don't have everybody lined up and then a legal stipulation that puts everybody on a level playing field, it's very difficult to create change that impacts everybody in the industry at the same time in the same kind of way. So there's a real feeling amongst people who are in the industry that one of the things that's missing is the right kind of legal incentive or the right kind of regulatory incentive to actually create the changes so you could all move at once, which is, I think, because the margins are so small and because of, as you noted, that the inflation is coming and it's actually going to slow lots of things down. and make business much more difficult. Without that regulatory infrastructure in the places where clothes are being sewn, or in the places where jewelry is being made, or in the factory-driven production line places, it's more difficult to create the change that we're looking for. Lots and lots of people also really believe in the demand coming from consumers as being able to create the change, and I'm sorry to say, more skeptical of that being a panacea to create the change. That demand is there. Again, on different levels of generations and how you shop, and whether you have lots of disposable income or little disposable income. I don't see any of the online retailers really moving in that direction, especially in the global supply chains where they have enough of demand. So there's a piece for people like me who shop sustainably, or for people who are concerned about fair trade, but it is not really the standard practice yet across the industry. So anyway, the lack of regulatory infrastructure, especially in places where the production processes takes place, I think is a real barrier. And that would create more change, perhaps.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Yeah.
With that, I would like to move over to the next step, because now we've heard that it's all very complicated and very, very difficult to change these systems, but there's people who are trying to change that system in small, but starting and with a can-do mentality. So thank you, Lisa, for this short keynote. And I'd like to ask forward also Ankie. Welcome, Ankie.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us from Enviu today. Yeah, you have a company in your portfolio, if I can call it like that, that is actually addressing this problem that has just been sketched. So could you please introduce yourself, Enviu, and
the company that is pitching today? Yes. Yeah. Well, thanks all for being here, and I'm looking forward to a nice interaction with you guys. Just a brief introduction of me. My name is Ankie van Wersch. I'm the CEO of Enviu. And at Enviu, we believe the economy can be inclusive of people and planet. And we have the goal to make to build the examples that actually prove that that's possible. So we're a venture building studio who has been building ventures with a positive impact, environmental and social, already for a while. In the past 10 years, we've been building these ventures, and we have developed an approach that seems to work, because our social and impact venture survival rate is at 80%, which is staggering high. And that's good news, because we need these ventures to make a difference. So what is part of this approach? Two things that are helpful. One is our support circle. So initially, we are extremely involved in building a venture. The first validation, technical, market, financial, we are often at the steering wheel with the entrepreneur, because we think when you build ventures, it's good to fail fast and learn quickly. The second aspect that I think is making a difference is our approach. We always have a programmatic approach, meaning we have a market focus. When we have a market focus, we can build partnerships, we can help in legislation by setting the examples. Lisa already mentioned how important that is. So we work with the legislators, and all the ventures we build in that specific market can profit from it. The markets we work in are food, reduction of plastic waste, shipping, and here we go, fast fashion. Our Reweave program is building ventures within fast fashion. We have built 5 ventures to date, and there's 4 more in the pipeline. We have a focus on the supply chain, so on the countries that actually have most trouble from the small margins, from the large complex supply chain, from the fact that money doesn't stay there, and that makes innovation hard. And today, actually, I'd like to introduce one of those companies to you. The first one in the batch already started 7 years ago. That company is Discovered. And Discovered was founded with the idea of giving people the opportunity to work on their passion, to really deliver quality, to work in under pleasant circumstances, and do work they're proud of. And I'm speaking of artisans in this case, artisans that have learned and mastered the craft of jewelry making. Artisans that actually are dignified employers and teach the people within their small companies to build that same jewelry at a certain quality. Artisans that actually want to use and build sustainable products. But these artisans in countries like India have problems. They are jewelry makers, they're not salespeople. So there's a big issue in access to market for these sustainable products. And second is they're stuck in a supply chain where middlemen play a large role and take a lot of the margin. So their income is marginalized, and the capacity to grow and increase employment and increase the pride of these artisans is limited. And that's where we founded Discovered. Discovered was founded and has been building a very strong backbone of artisan support of a local sustainable supply chain in these countries. So when you ask proof, like Lisa mentioned before, Andrew can tell you more about it, but we can show you actually where the products are made. However, we have also learned in the past years that not only having this local support is enough to scale a company. So in 2021, we realized that the management team of Discovered was missing e-commerce expertise, market expertise, and financial stamina. And that's when we actually hired two new board members, and Andrew, who will be presenting, is one of them. And since then, growth has been steep. And actually, even since 2021, already 50 new jobs are created at these artisan companies. So we see this has a good effect. We are currently a group of shareholders within Enviu that is proud and has the expertise to build and grow, but we're looking for more to join. It's Enviu, it's the Change Club, who is a Dutch a group of entrepreneurs that is testing their impact investing skills, but they have a great mentoring program. And the third shareholder, besides, of course, the entrepreneurial team, is Brigitte Moon Bertelsmann, who has a very steep online e-commerce expertise in our pocket. But we're inviting a new one. Before we talk about that, I would like to give the floor to Andrew because he can explain the Discover story far better than I can.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. I'll just share my screen. 1 second. Brilliant. You can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to meet you all today. So as Annika said, my name is Andrew. I'm heading up the team at Discovered. We are an online marketplace for handmade products, which are ethically crafted by skilled artisans in emerging countries. So personally, myself, I joined Discovered last year. Before that, I was working in a consultancy firm assisting European and US SMEs applying for R&D grants. And I was in Amsterdam before that, and I started my own sustainable fashion marketplace. I joined Discovered as I wanted to get back into the startup world and really make a true impact through my work, instead of kind of let's kind of mention it before, the greenwash kind of PR idea of an impact. And plus, I have a young family, so I feel it's more or less an obligation to really try and make the world better for myself and obviously them. And I see in Discovered, we have a great opportunity to improve the future for many people and their communities through our philosophy of changing today for a better tomorrow. So it's kind of been discussed, but as Annika mentioned, there are a few, let's say, major issues facing the artisan sector. It is the second largest employer in the developing world after agriculture. And obviously one of the major issues is the unfair and undignified working conditions, and also for very little pay. In addition, especially with our artisans, we see it's difficult for them to compete in a global marketplace and maintain the global standards that are required to not only ship the products, but also maintain and get repeat business. We do see middlemen can often be one of the biggest challenges for artisans, because they can often hinder the process and take up to 90% of the product sales. And of course, we see there is some issues with education, formal education and resources in terms of compete with the international market. And there's a big challenge of finances, especially in the jewelry sector. artisans can be expected to ship without any payment and have long waits of up to 2-3 months before they actually receive their payment. So our solution has been discovered, and our focus is on empowering artisans in emerging countries to go successful and sustainable businesses. So we do this through 3 main pillars. So fair pricing. Our focus is really on delivering high quality, unique handmade product with that offer basically a higher percentage commission for the artisans and a lower price for the customer. We also make sure that all the products are ethically made. So our artisans are pre-qualified before joining the platform. And we make sure they already obviously encourage a fair wage within their staff and have a strong reputation in their communities. And our positive impact is we have basically streamlined the traditional supply chain. So we are enabled to provide a higher sustainable income to the artisans and the culture that produce the products. So we are a direct-to-consumer brand, meaning customers pay less than compared to other retailers for high quality and handmade products. Our focus is really, as Annika said, so we take care of the international sales and operations for the artisans, so they can focus on their core, let's say, passion of manufacturing and training their staff to produce the high quality products. So we assist in terms of creating high quality content, working to make sure the photography is up to a global standard, the videos, writing the product descriptions. We provide them with detailed insights, both in pricing and the products, have the customer service, the artisans, and also, of course, the customers. And we do have 2 of our team based in Asia, so we can provide in-person meetings and provide them with that support locally as well if required. So where we are today, we have more than 100 artisan businesses who employ roughly around 400 people in 10 countries. We have over 13,000 products listed on the platform, obviously with the main focus being jewelry. And we've generated in the last 2.5 years around $700,000 for the artisans. And as Annika said, we've created about 50 new jobs during the global COVID crisis. So with a special focus on India, there was a huge impact in terms of the artisans are able to survive due to the international sales they made through us. We've also partnered with the Artisan Alliance, whose major partner is the US Department of State. So where we are this year, our goal, we're on target to hit 1 million total revenue. As Annika said, we had a new management team around the start of 2021. And since then, to basically January 2022, we had a growth of over 1,000% as we changed our focus to the US market and saw a fantastic growth. Our growth is over 3 years. We'll look to achieve 6 million in yearly revenues by the 3rd year and reach our break-even point. Our main focus this year has been a real basically double down and big focus on improving our KPIs. So in terms of increasing our average order value, looking to be profitable from the first purchase, and increasing our lifetime value for our customers, both in terms of the average customer and the loyal customers that are purchasing 3 times or more. In terms of an impact narrative, so we are, as you know, partnered with Enviu, and we are looking to partner with local NGOs and foundations to help us create a clearly definable measurement of our impact. Obviously, we have strong connections in these countries and have a lot of insights that we really need to tap into and go a deeper level. We are looking to support our artisans to become ILSA 8000 compliant, looking at how we can develop education programs, making sure that our artisan businesses can sustainably grow, which is obviously very important, alongside us as a business scaling. And long-term, looking to see how we can provide microfinancing loans or support so that they can also have the financial capital for them to grow as well. All this will be happening while we're looking to achieve or drive over 100,000 transactions through our site. And over the 3 years, look to provide revenues to up to 300 artisans that employ 1,500 people. So in terms of our investment case, at the moment, we're looking for $1 million based on a pre-money valuation of 3 million. So we're looking for a healthy chunk of the business, up to 25% equity, because we really want this new partner to have a, let's say, big influence in the growth of the business. The investment itself is mainly a investment case to drive revenues. So we know that with this investment, we will be able to achieve our three-year forecast of 6 million. We do have a committed shareholder group, as Annika said, and we expect a realistic valuation of around 30 million US by the end of 2025. And we already have a European entity based in the Netherlands and also US incorporated company that was set up last year. So the funding we're looking for would predominantly split between three main areas. So looking to scale our online growth, increasing our operational and customer support, and measuring our true social impact to the artisans that we work with. So in terms of our cost splits, over the next 3 years, we're looking to rely less on our direct marketing spend and invest more into team growth and all the technical upgrades to support our scaling operation. In our general growth, we're looking to add additional sales channels. So looking at including more of a younger target demographic, things like TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, and looking to enter new markets. At the moment, we've been focused on the US. We've already started to test again, Canada, Europe, UK, and Australia. And obviously looking to grow the team with additional 5 full-time staff. We also do have some exciting possibilities in terms of additional projects. So how we can strengthen Discovered brand, provide better customer service with better, faster delivery times, looking at recycled packaging, and looking at commercial partnerships with charities. So there's a lot of great opportunities there for our growth. In terms of our team, so at the moment we have a small but very dedicated and effective team. So we have the key areas of marketing execution, content, SEO, and operations covered. Mark and myself are leading the team, and we've both previously founded marketplace startups in the past. So there's 3 of us that live in Europe, and Chana and Gautam live in Asia, closer to our artisans. In terms of how we look at our competition, I would say Novica is probably our closest competitor, with the main difference being their products are often, let's say, 40 to 50% more expensive, and they offer a much broader range of products. I think they're around 100,000 products in total. The main factor is each of the companies that we can see do have strong revenues in 2020 and 2021, but they have had a lot of private investment funding that have been injected into them. So from our side, we do have the foundations to grow. We do basically have the clear, let's say, setup and structure in place to scale. And our added value, of course, is that we really support our artisans. So our focus is on supporting the artisans as SMEs to grow their business, not only actually just sell through us and being. That's it. I might have rushed a bit quickly. But I thank you for the time, for listening to me, and it's great that you get to hear the fantastic opportunity we have to empower the artisans. Our main goal is to help them compete on a global scale and provide beautiful handmade products to the international market. So thank you again. You guys are on mute if you're trying to talk, I think. If anyone can hear me.
Still muted.
There we are. There we are. You're back. Sorry.
There we are again.
Moving, but I couldn't hear what.
That's a classic.
That's a
Martijn.
classic mistake. Yeah. Well, now you missed all the compliments and all the beautiful words. No, what I said, Andrew, is that I ran into Discovered in the early days back in 2015 already, and it's great to see all the accomplishments you have made over the years. So definitely thank you for that. And the second remark was, are there any questions from the audience? And I thought I saw someone waving, but it was probably notifying me that the mute was still on. No questions, and I have a question, and I have a promise. I have a promise that I will share this pitch with the broader community of EVPA, so people can watch it at their own time and get back to you. So that's my promise. It's recorded, so you can keep me to it. And my question is, you're looking for an investor. What ideally, what would be your ideal investor? What would he bring into the mix of investors that you already have?
Yeah, so for us, we're looking for kind of a mix of investor. One, we're looking for someone with the social impact experience to help us really define and measure how we collect that data and how we go out there and effectively not only have interviews, but disseminate the information. And then the milestones we can look to achieve over the next 3 to 5 years as we grow. So that's important. And also we're looking for an investor with, let's say, a almost like I'd say younger, but a more scaling mentality behind them. So we're looking for an investor that sees a market opportunity, sees how well we've done already and how we can scale in different areas. So really kind of comes behind us, guides us. As I mentioned, we're a small team, obviously looking to grow, but having someone to provide that higher level management as well and guidance would be fantastic on our side.
Okay, thank you. More questions from the audience? If not for now, I'd like to continue. There's no questions in the chat, I think. I see 2 remarks for a while. If you have any questions, you may also put them in the chat so we can read them forward.
Perfect, thanks.
No, then I'd like to thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much for this presentation, and thank you, Ankie, for sharing it with the community. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
From jewelry to jewelry, is that what we are doing now? Jodi, welcome on the call. You're calling in from Paris, if I'm right?
I'm actually calling in from the United States, but my colleague Meng is in Paris. Yes, I'm working with the team, from here.
Welcome, Jodi. I wasn't aware. I thought you were from Paris as well, but also from the US. I wish you a warm welcome. Maybe Sonna can help to change the spotlights, and I can hand over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. And I'm really honored to be here today representing Cartier Women's Initiative. Just a quick background. And before I introduce Dr. Carmeni Hossa of Ananas Anam, Cartier Women's Initiative goal is to drive change by empowering women impact entrepreneurs across the globe that are creating businesses that are both for impact and for profit. I have the role of capital connector with Cartier Women's Initiative, and then independently and separately, I'm also an angel investor and on a investment committee for a fund that also works with female impact entrepreneurs in the US. Cartier Women's Initiative, we're about to close our call for applications for our 2023 fellows, and this next year we'll be selecting 33 fellows from across the globe. And I just have to say, Dr. Ihosa represents what Cartier Women's Initiative is all about. And it's not very often you get to introduce an inventor that has created a product, but not just a product, but a business that is truly scalable, but started at the very beginning with embedded impact. And that's the thing that's really exciting about Ananas Anam is it can't be separated. And what she started, and I'm so excited for her to tell her story, but I got to do a little introduction quick first. She started with the vision that we can do better in the textile industry. And Lisa talked about one of the categories was the next generation materials and how important that was as a category. And so Dr. Ihosa saw that opportunity with pineapple leaves in the Philippines, and that's where it started. And the product it's a manufacturer and distributor of Piñatex, which is patented. And as I said, it's a new invention. And it came about from waste pineapple leaf fiber. So it's an alternative to leather for footwear, bags, accessories, upholstery, and moving into automotive applications. What's exciting is this is a previous waste product that was burned. So it was contributing to carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. By now using that waste product of existing agriculture, she's also creating an additional income stream for rural farming communities. And so we get to put forth today a company that has combined environmental and social impact that's really measurable and is a focus of Ananas Anam as to how they measure that throughout the process. So Dr. Ihosa became a Cartier Women's Initiative Fellow in 2015. So we have been fortunate to follow her journey through really changes and, as I said, scaling. She started with us in her very early stages of her business. Ananas Anam is a certified B Corporation. And as I said, she's really stayed true to her vision over time for both deep and again, I'm going to stress it, and I'm going to say it multiple times, measurable impact. And that's the thing I find really exciting about it, is both the financial and impact side are measurable. As I said, it's to reduce the environmental impact generated by the textile industry, and it replaces both mass leather production and chemical tanning options, as well as PVC alternatives. Piñatex is comprised of 95% renewable resources and uses no hazardous chemicals in its production. As I said before, too, I think it's really important the focus on the local rural farming communities and the process of manufacturing this. And Dr. Ihosa will talk more about that. As I said, she's an inventor and she's also a visionary. And so her role in the company now is Chief Creative and Innovation Officer. And she has really created a strong and diverse team led by a female CEO. And Lisa also talked earlier about the importance of governance in this industry. And she has been focused on creating a strong board of directors in the process and has that around her. Ananas Anam has proven the scalability. There are 27 million tons of pineapple leaves generated annually. They've also proven market fit with clients in 85 countries around the globe. And some of those include Nike, Hugo Boss, H&M, and Paul Smith, to name just a few. She's currently raising her Series B. And why today is so important is what I like is Dr. Ihosa's focus on finding like-minded investors. So taking her company forward with those that have the same vision and beliefs to scale it and make the change, both financially, socially, and environmentally. I'm going to hand this over because she can tell the story much better, but I'm super excited to be able to introduce you today. And over to you, Dr. Ihosa.
Jodi.
I thank you so much. Can everybody hear me now? Yes. Jodi, thank you. There's very little more to say, but I will try to expand on what you have said. And thank you, Lisa. I think that was a very clear picture of where the textile industry is. And I think I'm very, very glad to show that that picture can be different. And I think this is what I'm going to share with you. Thank you to Cartier to bring me here too. So let me just share. All right, let me just get this smaller. How is this? Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I really think that this is exactly actually what you just said, Jodi. Ananas Anam, it's really the foundation upon which we build what was not there before, actually, I can say that. So welcome to Ananas Anam, and I will really go through it with you. And I want to concentrate, again, as Jodi was saying, on how important and why it's so important to have a vision and a purpose in anything we do, any new impulse in the world that involves people. And resources and material and the environment. And I have written this vision even before Ananas Anam was a company. I think it's just as important today as it was then. And the vision of Ananas Anam is to meet the challenges of our times by developing products and systems in which commercial success is integrated with and promotes social, cultural, and ecological development. And I would like to pause a little bit here and say that usually, the social, the ecological, and obviously the economic side of any development is very much the three pillars upon which we talk about. But again, with my experience working in places like the Philippines, Bangladesh, the cultural side is absolutely critical. And as mainly Western people, sometimes we are inclined to forget how important it is to really respect, understand, and be at one with the culture, which is really the soul of the people and the society that we work with. So the purpose of this vision and my company is reconnect and heal the relationship between humans and Mother Earth. And again, I think today more than ever, this is so critical because if we don't connect in this very much humane, empathetic level, I really don't see much hope for ourselves and society. And to me, this is the most critical, profound change that needs to happen at every level, to really have empathy and really connect with people and really understand the pain and be part of it. So again, what are the attributes of Ananas Anam? As it was said by Jodi, we are a B Corp, so we know what that really means. One of the key attributes is, apart from what I said, which is ethics and economics as one, is the innovation. Again, it was said that, I am the inventor of the main product, in fact, all the products, Piñatex and what is coming. And I think innovation in this very obviously industrial revolution market and industry is absolutely critical, and innovation towards what? This is also the important thing, innovation towards the social and the humane ecological side, and we're very lucky to have really great partnerships in this continuous R&D innovative thinking processes. Again, we spoke about waste valorization, which is really so important. Imagine having a product that is totally upscalable without using any land, any water, any fertilizers, because we're using a waste. This is really incredible. And we're talking about 20 million tons of waste. And really, if just to put it into the reality, hypothetically, if we can use all this waste, we could really have 1.2 million kilometers of Piñatex every year. So imagine what this really represents against things like growing cotton, which basically we know that it becomes, growing cotton fields become desert years later. So this is really a very important attribute. Income stream diversification. Again, we work from farming cooperatives to the end, to manufacturing plants, finishing plants in the textile industry. So this is really going from agriculture into another field as well. Inequality, absolutely important. I mean, we are bringing gender balance, and we are very much a gender balance company. And particularly at the beginning of the supply chain, there is a lot of women that they really have a choice and a future there. So I think this is really very important. And traceability, because as you will see, we have developed from nothing, from beginning, our full supply chain. So it cannot be more traceable than that I can guarantee you. And I think this is important what I have at the end, because this is that if we start this way and others follow, as it happens, because Piñatex was the first plant-based material in the market, and now is very happily and heavily populated by many others. And, to me, I don't see this as competition. I see this as really strengthening what needs to happen in the world. So the effect will be much greater. So who are we? We've got the main company, which is Ananas Anam. This is really the headquarters, and from this we've got, and the headquarters is in London, where I started all the research and development when we built our brand. And we have now a company in the Philippines, which is the beginning of the supply chain, and we also have another company, which are both subsidiaries of Ananas Anam in Spain, where we do the import, export, and also the finishing. And the products, the family of Ananas Anam is Piña which is the beginning of the products that we have, which is come from the fibers. Then we've got this non-woven, excuse me for a second, I'm going to close the door because I can hear noise. Sorry, apologies for this. I'm not in my office, I'm actually in London, but today I decided to be in this place, so now I think it should be quiet. So Piña is the beginning. Once we basically purify these pineapple fibers, Piña is the felted material, which is the base for Piñatex, but however is a product in itself. Piñatex has basically different members of its family. We've got Piñatex original, mineral, meaning that with different compositions, and metallic, and a performance. They are all based in the Piña base, and they have different qualities for different markets, going from the fashion industry to the shoe, which needs much more high technology, to the car industry, which will be the performance, Piñatex performance, even higher, basically technical requirements. And then we have a new product, the new baby in the family, which is Piña yarn. It's basically in the first production prototyping stage at the moment, and we can do, it can be used as a weaving and as a knitting. You can think from outerwear to t-shirts, for example. This is what has been prototyped, to shoe uppers. So this is really the Piñatex family, as I call it. So what is Piñatex? I think we have heard a little bit about it already. Definitely it is a product made from, as we said, the leaves. You can see the leaves there, and this is actually in the southern part of the Philippines with a cooperative, which is called Tiboli, that we are working with. It is really breaking barriers in the fashion and the textile industry for the reasons that we said. It really is bringing a new hope and a new material from waste into the marketplace. It is a patented material also, and it is used in the fashion, interior, and the automotive industries. Again, we said that it's a waste-based material that really is giving employment to farming communities where before there was no employment. So this is completely a new jobs in places that, trust me, there was no much job. Even for the pineapple farming communities, it was more of a seasonal job, and now everybody that is working with this, they have a full-time, year-on job, which is quite extraordinarily wonderful. So let's continue. If I find the little arrow, here we go. Okay, so this is the key attributes of Piñatex. Number one, as we heard, is made up of 95 renewable resources. You may say, why not 100%? And I can tell you, when I started my research and development, which took me about 12 to 15 years to do, it was not 95, it was probably about 75, because this is the ongoing research and development, and the technology and the attributes technically that are needed for some of these materials means that we are working closely with collaborators in the mainly chemical industry for new resins, plant-based resins, but the technical attributes are not there yet. So this is, I think in about 2 years, we will probably be at 100% renewable resources. However, Piñatex is 100% vegan, so there is no cruelty-free, it's carbon neutral, and it has no harmful chemicals. No harmful chemicals are used. And this is the beautiful little one, which is really totally scalable without having to plant anything. So we have heard about that. And this is another very wonderful one, I think. We actually, for each linear meter of Piñatex, we are actually withholding 12 kilograms of CO2 equivalent to be released into the atmosphere, meaning not being burned. Frankly, I feel that Piñatex is one of those extraordinary products that they have, and it ticks so many boxes needed for the future. And I think this really represents quite a lot of them, that it can only grow up, really. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, I think it's the reality. Life cycle, and I think this is again another pride slide that I want to show you, because our life cycle has been started by ourselves. Just to give you an idea, today, we probably have, just in the Philippines, we can process about 5 tons of fibers per month. When I started about 12 to 15 years ago, if I could get 50 kilos, that was really an extraordinary achievement, because there was absolutely no systems to actually extract the fiber. The machines were absolutely lethal. There was really no conception of the thinking that this could be an industry. So we start in the agriculture, where the pineapple leaves, as you have seen in the photograph, the leaves are collected from the fields. Then these leaves are brought into their, they're not really factories, they're basically, little factories, if you like, basically in situ, where they bring the pineapples, they bring the leaves, and now we have really dedicated spaces for the fiber procurement and the fiber extraction. We work extremely close with the cooperatives and the companies we work with. We co-develop these machines. We usually have them develop locally, the machines, so that means really more local impact, because it's local jobs for the local industry. We pass the machines on to our cooperatives, so they really are, the yield is much better, the security is much better, and this is really how we can work with them. But then look at this beautiful cycle or circle in the middle, which is that after the fiber extraction, there is a whole lot of biomass, and this biomass can be used with very little extra input into organic fertilizer. And the organic, or rather the non-organic fertilizer, is the most expensive thing that they need in agriculture. So this is really the most beautiful closed circular economy in absolutely real terms. Once the fibers are extracted, they go to the next stage, fiber purification, to our partners, Ananas Anam Philippines, where we have developed our systems to enzymatic processes, no chemicals, very little water again. And then from that, it goes into our partner manufacturing partners to do the mesh that I said. It's shipped to Spain, and then the coating and finishing happens in there, and then it goes to our clients. And obviously, we are working towards closing fully the loop, which is a slow process, I must say, by combining with our clients and see how we can recycle Piñatex into the next upcycling stage. Or otherwise, we are working on the controlled degradation, which is basically, I think probably in another year or so we will be able to have it, but it basically needs the right temperature and the right humidity to happen. And this is their second baby of our family. This is the baby, really. So Piña yarn is the new yarn that we are developing, which is fully biodegradable because it doesn't need any resins at all. It's 100% traceable, obviously, and is made fully with pineapple leaf fibers and blend with something with lensing fibers, which is again fully traceable combination of fibers. And it can be used in the fashion industry, but in different things, as I said, can be used for in the shoe industry for uppers, it can be used for outerwear, and it's being really already tried by key market players. And this is their qualities that it has. There's a huge opportunity into these plant-based materials, and I will keep this, and I have kept it really very general because I really want to give the big picture of what is important in the textile industry today. But as you can see, the market for alternative leather products, it's and will be worth 38 billion in 2030. And this is such a pioneering market. It's growing exponentially every year. And we're, as I said, we're part of this as pioneers. And you can see that we don't really need anything more than use waste to really create a huge amount of upscalable products, Piñatex or rather Piña yarn as well. I think it's extremely important to understand the brand. Brand is the intangible asset of any company. And I particularly feel I have developed the brand of the company very close and very connected with the importance of the brand, because the brand carries the vision of the company if it is done the right way, and I believe we certainly do the right way, and leads via its vision and the purpose. So it is the brand that enables Ananas Anam products to remain unique, ensuring that they do not become a commodity. And I think this is really important, because not to be a commodity means that we are completely responsible from beginning to end. This is the way I see it, to the products, the people, and the processes that we actually develop.
Very sorry to interrupt, but there is a bit of a noise on the background.
I can hear that. Oh, you know what I think it is? It's actually my computer heating up.
Oh.
I'm sorry. There is no noise whatsoever. I don't know. I'm going to hold the computer with my hand and really see if it gets better. But this is what the noise is. Can you hear me still?
We can hear you perfectly.
Okay, thank you. I just want to share with you some of the products. As I said, we are in the fashion industry. This is some of the bags. Half Marici is one of our clients. Okay. Again, so we go from products like handbags to clothing, if you like. And I show this one, Evelyn Fink, because this actually skirt that you see there won the Marie Claire Award in 2021 for sustainable products in the fashion industry. We go from fashion into interiors. This is Tom Dixon, a collaboration we did with a very famous interior designer in London. And this is Piñatex, obviously. Also, it can be used in interiors for, as you see, wall hangings, but it can be really also for acoustic reasons, because it can be used in a way that is soundproofing. So this is really quite an important thing today, when we think that, you know, we all need little cubicles to talk to everybody, etc., etc. So this is really becoming a very important other market segment for us. The shoe industry is really the most important industry, and is really where we really are ingrained in. Hugo Boss is one of our ongoing clients. Nike, we heard about that. We are again going, you know, we have a collaboration with Nike ongoing, and this is the Happy Pineapple collection. And in fact, behind you can see H&M, the boots that they were made for conscious collections a couple of years ago by H&M. And really, I'm only telling you the little bit of what can be done with Piñatex. And yes, the opportunities are endless. The R&D does not stop. And I can really see huge potential in this product. Not just what we have today, but what it can become. And again, holistically, the whole thing is, it's really, you know, people and planets. So, ladies and gentlemen, will you join our vision? And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
See if you can hear me.
No, we can still hear you. There's a bit of a computer trying to cool off on the background, but that's no problem. I'm very happy to learn two things. One is that ananas is actually the same as it is in Dutch. It is actually a pineapple. And secondly is that the Happy Pineapple collection of Nike. I'm not wearing the shoes now, but I have shoes from that collection, so I don't know if that includes products from your company, but that would definitely be nice to know. We only have a couple of minutes left, but I do want to provide the opportunity, if anybody in the room has a question, to come forward. If not, I have one small one. Do we still have time? Yes, if you can answer it quickly. We didn't hear, I think, the investment ask that you have. What is it that you're looking for? I think Jodi mentioned that you're currently looking for Series B. Can you be a bit more specific for and what the amounts would be, please? please.
Yes, absolutely. We are actually in the closing stages for our Series B. We have done the first stage that we closed basically last week, right? So we're going to the second phase of the Series B. So at the moment, we're really in the latest process of Series B, which is we have already about 5.5 million, and we are possibly having the partners again for the next stage of the Series B, which it can go up to 7 to 10 million. But what I would like to say is that the board is critical. And I think as we expand the company, the board needs to expand. And what I would like to put out there is that I would very much like to look for, and I'm looking for a board member, an executive board member that is really in the fashion industry, that understands sustainability, understand ethics, understand the fashion market. This is something that I would very much like to put there as this is what I'm really looking for at the moment. Anybody that wishes to invest, please come back, because then I can really put you in touch with our CFO, which is really the person running the investment. But from my side, I mean, from the board side, which is absolutely critical, as it was said, that we get the right blend in the board. I would like to see, again, better a female, because I think we have to have this gender balance, yes, and with this expertise. That would be really something I would very much like.
Thank you. That's a very clear ask. We will take that along when we will be sharing the video, because that, like to Andrew, also to you, like to promise that we share this video to the wider community, because I think it's a very inspiring product, a very inspiring company, and a very inspiring pitch. I'd like to thank you for a lot. Thank you very much. With that, we've come to a close of this session today. I'm not going to leave you without telling you that I thank you all for joining, either live or by watching the video. We are going to continue with deal sharings. Probably better next time, a deal sharing midwinter, cold outside, raining, wet, so we need to stay in kind of deal sharing. The next one is going to be live, by the way. We're going to try to do a live deal sharing at our Impact Week in Brussels in December. So tune in for that. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for being here, Ankie. Thank you for being here, Lisa. Thank you for being with us online, Jodi and Meng. Thank you, Irene, for hosting us again, and looking forward to seeing you all soon. Bye-bye.